Hello! It's Andy again from the Egocast channel, and I'm looking at Riley again, because I just can't seem to get away. But this should be a quickie. For all the people that hate when I make the really, really long videos, here's a quickie for you, right? And for anybody who might watch this and be like, oh, he's trying to be a Ponage channel. I'm not trying to be a Ponage channel. God damn it. Not all the people out there that come off like Ponage channels are trying to be Ponage channels. I'm asking a question. I think it's an honest fucking question. And I think it could be answered honestly if Riley so chooses. So, we're going to look at a small excerpt of Riley's last video because, my God, the whole thing was just... I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I like doing Riley videos, but when I do the whole Riley video, it's so tiring. It takes so much out of me. So I like doing these little funny clips too. Anyways, so we're gonna get into this. Let's one rule, right? There's gonna be one rule for this video. I'm using Riley's math. I know. I didn't bother to read it. Don't care. Couldn't give a fuck about the paper. I'm just using Riley's math. We're going to be as fair and impartial as possible. I'm using Riley's math for all of this. Right? Here we go.
What is true is that men tend to be taller than women. On average, men are taller than women. But that doesn't mean that men are taller than women, because not every man is taller than every woman.
Alright, so like I said, we're going to be doing a small excerpt of the whole video. You can kind of tell from that clip right there that pretty much squares you in her context for everything. Because you can't say this is a sign indicative of all trans people and completely and utterly exclusive of all cisgendered people. Because you can't find something that is exclusive. Then it doesn't matter. It's bullshit. Like... So, granted, that's where we're coming from. And a wise man once said,
only a Sith deals in absolutes.
It's the same sexual dimorphism problem, but it's also just a problem with our language. I think we need to be more careful in clarifying that something is on average rather than applying it to everyone. Because there are certain brain features that are, on average, different between cis males and cis females. And that's often what people are testing when they test the brains of transgender people. So let's look at some of the studies that people use to back up the idea that trans women have female brains.
Alright, so when you're talking about people, honestly, there's no one single feature that you can point to and say, only men have that, or only women have that, except for our genitalia. Like, that's it. Even our secondary sexual characteristics. Breasts. Can't even fucking, sometimes girls just flat chest as fuck. This shit happens. Variations, right? Some guys got nice, big old juicy D titties. It happens. Whatever. But penis, vagina, bam. That's it. Those are the two things that are indicative of the species, the gender of the species. Men have that, women got that. It's just the way it is. So the transgender thing is where you're denying that fact, right? Right? So that's reasonable to say. Reasonable. So we're trying to find some other way to figure out. This is it. But we're talking about people. So there's always going to be similarities. We're all different in many ways, but that doesn't mean that there's only one person out there with brown fucking eyes. Like, but that doesn't mean that everybody has brown eyes. And you can't say that only men, men may be more prone to having brown eyes than women, but that doesn't mean that it's a way to say, oh, you have brown eyes, huh? You're a man. Like, no, that doesn't work. That's kind of bullshit. It's not substantial, it's not fucking concrete. But if all you have is an eyeball, right? and your chances of guessing female are 1 in 4, those are shit fucking odds. So you go, looks like a male eyeball to me. Like, you know what I mean? So that's kind of what these ridiculous specific studies, that's the only thing that they can prove. Is that generally, if you had to make a ballpark fucking guess, just going off the possibility of numbers and statistics, here's your odds. That's all they show. They don't show anything else. Unless they're huge, overblown studies with thousands and thousands of people. Generally, the studies like what she's talking about, they're proof of concept. That's all they are. If you're taking a very small sample group, it's for proof of concept. That's it. So she's going to break this down. Now you know where I'm coming from. You know where she's coming from. You know where I'm coming from. We're all on the same fucking page.
The study that I see cited most often is from 1995 and was published in the journal Nature. In that study, researchers looked at the size of a very small part of the brain called the central subdivision of the bed nucleus of the stria terminalis, which is BSTC for short. On average, cis men have a larger and more dense BSTC than cis women. Unfortunately, the BSTC can't be accurately measured in living humans, so all studies have to be done on the brains of people who are already dead. So researchers studied the brains of 6 deceased trans women and found that they had BSTC sizes that were closer to what you'd expect to see in cis women than cis men. That sounds like compelling evidence for trans women having a brain feature that's like cis women, but there are quite a few problems with drawing that conclusion.
Now, she doesn't state specifically, but she alludes to the possibility that all 6 shared this common trait with women. Now, if all 6 do, that's more than compelling. That's proof of concept. You know, like, I think this is gonna happen. Oh, look, that fucking happened 6 out of 6 times. Proof of concept. Will it be the bedrock of science? Who knows? They did it with 6 fucking people. Can't tell shit from 6 people. But proof of concept, it is.
First of all, the study only looked at 6 trans women. That's a ridiculously small sample size, and it's pretty much impossible to extrapolate that data out to apply to all trans women.
Very true. But proof of concept. Now, here's the thing. How are we going to ever do this study? If transgendered people make up 1% of the population, how are we ever going to gather around enough dead trans people to do this sort of a study? You know what I mean? Like, this is going to have to be something that's going to not only be passed around state to state. Like, the funding that would be needed for it is ridiculous. But proof of concept we have. Like, but you treat it as such. It's a proof of concept. You don't say that this is absolutely what it is. But goddamn, 6 out of 6. 6 out of 6 is good, man. That gets you into the Hall of Fame, that's for fucking sure.
Also, all of the 6 trans women had either had an orchiectomy or had taken anti-androgens as a part of hormone replacement therapy. Either way, their bodies would have stopped being exposed to high levels of testosterone. And all 6 of the trans women had also taken estrogen as a part of hormone replacement therapy. So it's impossible to know if the size of their BSTC regions was inherent in them or was affected by the hormones that they took.
Alright, this part I thought was funny. Because here she acknowledges that there is a difference. Like, so you can't say that this is a good study because all of the trans women took female hormone replacement. So of course their brains would be more like women's brains. But there's no way to tell if there's any such thing as a female brain. Like... Huh? What? Fucking... And that's where I wonder if Riley actually listens to herself. Like, do you edit with the fucking volume off? Do you... And you write scripts, Riley. You write scripts. You write scripts. What's wrong with you? You don't proofread your scripts? You don't think about the shit that you're reading when you're reading back your script? When you're filming? Riley... You just acknowledged that there's a difference between a male and a fucking female brain. God damn it! Your whole video is trying to say that you can't measure the difference between a male and female brain, but yet when you say, well, trans women took all these female hormones that made them more like females, so of course they have more of a female brain. Really?
And lastly, even though their ranges were more similar to cis women's, that's ignoring the fact that cis women and cis men actually have a lot of overlap when it comes to the size and density of their BSTC regions. To illustrate that, let's take a look at this graph from the study. It's a little old looking since the study happened in 1995, so I made this updated version that shows the ranges of all 4 categories.
Alright, like I said, we're using Riley's math. So we're going to be using Riley's graph from here on out, because we're being absolutely fair.
For now, let's get rid of the cis gay man category just to simplify things.
Well, wait 1 second. I want to look at that, because I find that to be very interesting. Because you'd think that a cisgendered gay man would have more of a female brain, because I don't know. I guess it's a common misconception that sexual preference is indicative of whether or not you're male or female. I guess this would kind of be proof of concept that that's bullshit. Like, just because you like taking it in the ass, maybe you're on the lower end of the maybe you're closer to that 2 than the 4. You know, maybe it's actually tops and bottoms in every respect. The 4, up closer to the 4, those are your tops. Down closer to the 2, those are your bottoms. But it goes higher than the male chart. Huh. Those have got to be like the engaged shape gay men. I bet you that's where that is, because they're fucking, really hitting the fucking gym, bro. And like they're all cock diesel and shit because they're in gay shape and whatnot. That's probably where that comes from. A lot of testosterone when you get into that shit. The more you work out, more testosterone. So, yeah. Like, I bet you that's what that is. Interesting shit to think about. Like, she's so quick to throw away, like, something that I think is a very interesting thing to look at. Fucking gay men. More men than men, apparently. Like, holy shit. Why are we not talking about this? Oh, because we're watching a Riley video.
That leaves us with straight cis men, straight cis women, and trans women of varying sexual orientation. It says presumably mostly straight for the cis men and cis women because that's the language that the study used.
Yeah, that completely fucking neutral, bullshit feminist language that you love to push. It's funny that you have all of that, like, what bullshit this is, tone to your voice when you say that. That, again, just made me laugh,
But anyways, what we want to see is if you could look at the BSTC region of any given brain and determine the gender of the person it came from. You can see that the trans woman category has a more similar range to the cis woman category than it does to the cis man category.
I noticed that. Did anybody else notice that? The trans women part is way down there, way below the female. Far more below the female portion than the gay man is above the male portion. Very interesting. Very interesting. These are very interesting numbers, Riley. That's why we're using your numbers, Riley. This is some good shit.
But if we look at the overlap between all 3 of these, you can see that most brains aren't clearly male or female. All of the brains that have BSTC regions that fall in between these green lines could be either from cis men or cis women. And all the brains that fall in between these pink lines could be from cis men, cis women, or trans women. So if someone hands you a brain and says, is this a male or female brain, you wouldn't be able to tell just from testing the size of the BSTC region, unless it fell on one of the extremes, but most brains would fall somewhere in the middle.
Alright, now, I know that there's probably at least 2 of you that I can actually think of by name that watched that whole section and at various parts were like, what, you're fucking really not jumping in there? Not there either? Okay, so we're going to talk about the whole thing now. This is pretty much the end. I think there's what am I doing here? There's another. Yeah, there's another part, and then we're going to sum up. We're going to go over everything again. So here's where we get into the nitty gritty of it, right? Looking at Riley's, her ultimate chart, the end of it all. We've got the whole thing overlapping. We've got the green lines and the pink lines, and fucking we've got all the colored bars, and everything is represented. It's all right here, right? So, what do we see when we look at this? Where is the middle? The middle is slightly below the top pink line. So if you had a brain, right, and you wanted to say whether or not it was male or female, and you knew where the BSTC was, and you knew how to extract it or whatever, and weigh it or whatever, and figure this shit out, right? You got a 1 in 2 chance, pretty much, of saying it's either a man or it could be a woman or a trans woman, right? It could be one or the other. If you're looking at the straight middle, your 1 in 2 shot, that's where you got, right? Now, if you had to identify a trans brain, let's say, right? Just looking at what I see right here, I see half of the trans bar is outside of the male spectrum, right? So you're looking at about a 1 in 4 shot of guessing between a male brain or a trans woman. If all you have is a brain, you got a 1 in 4. Because it could be a man 3/4 of the way up. But there's 1/4 that is pretty much exclusive. I mean, it's there's some female overlap in there too, but if you had to guess between one and the other, if women were taken completely off the table, you got a 1 in 4 shot. Now, if it's women, you're looking at a 1 in 2 shot. You're looking at 50-50. Pretty much. Well, okay, I guess. I guess because of the overlap. I mean, if you take out the male completely, it's still pretty much a 1 1/4. But you know what I mean? Like, am I crazy at what I'm looking at here? It looks pretty fucking conclusive when half of the trans bar is decidedly apart. You know, like, there's only an overlap of a quarter, a third of the blue bar, 1/3, which covers half of the. It's proof of concept, Riley. Like, it's proof of concept. Just looking at it spread out, you can see the fucking trans bar way lower than the female, even. You said yourself they would be taking female hormones, so of course they'd have more of a female like brain. You know, like, you're looking at all this stuff and you're just going, so see, it's bullshit. And it's like, yeah, it's bullshit. It's a bullshit study, but it's proof of concept, right? Fuck, man, I don't know. Alright, Riley's got a little finish up. I don't know what the fuck she says, but.
So based on this study, there's no way to look at the brain of someone who is assigned male at birth and determine if they are cis or trans, unless their BSTC region is abnormally large or abnormally small. But most cis men and trans women would probably not fall on the extremes. And that's on top of all the other issues in this study, like the small sample size and the lack of a transgender control group that wasn't taking hormones. Plus, as far as tests go, measuring the size of the BSTC region isn't a great one because, like I said, you can only measure it in dead people. So you can't go to a doctor and ask them to test your BSTC region to see if you're trans or not. If this was the one true measure of transness, then it wouldn't be very useful, since you would never be able to have yourself tested in your lifetime. Well,
I think I left that in there just to kind of be like, we never know what's going to happen with things. But, you know, there are not enough men in college, so we may never see it in our fucking life. Anyways, I just looking at the chart again, I see proof of concept. You know what I mean? Like, if it was possible to do a broader study on this, I think it would be extremely interesting. It's very unfortunate that we don't have the capabilities of measuring this in living people. I think that is a total fucking shame. But if you watched yesterday's video, hey, we might have that part. You never know what we could have lost out on. But whatever, that's... I guess I'm still just not over that. But, I don't know, Riley. It looks like proof of concept to me. And like I said, I didn't read the paper. Didn't bother. Couldn't be fucked to. Because I wanted to use Riley's math. I like Riley's math. Riley's math looks like proof of fucking concept to me. Riley's math made me think about a whole lot of shit. So if anything else, you gotta give this to Riley. She certainly made you think today, right? Gay men are more men than real men. Some gay men, more men than fucking, not even real men, just men. Like the straight men. Some manly gay men out there. Who knew? And boy, is there a lot more trans women that are more female than some of you ladies. Could that be another result of feminism? Who knows?